Workforce management is on the cusp of a revolution. Artificial intelligence is now at the heart of maximizing human potential, addressing skills gaps, and promoting inclusivity. And in doing so, revolutionizing how organizations become more resilient economic structures.
90% of organizations are trying to become skills-based. They know that that's the way of the future, and yet less than 5% have any data on their employees.
Today, I'm joined by Joanna Riley, CEO and co-founder of Censia, a company that is leading this transformation. We'll find the future, it says, one leader at a time. Jo, great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. That's wonderful.
Why don't we start by you telling me a little bit about Censia?
Sure. Censia is a talent intelligence platform. And so we've built AI to really transform organizations and the way that they understand the skills and capabilities of their people so that they can really look at how do they do predictive workforce planning, how do they do internal mobility, how do they optimize their workforce for the future, and how do they leverage that all within the systems that they have today. Every human has unlocked potential, and we believe in unlocking that potential for the good of the future of work.
So let's go back. Before you existed, were a lot of companies overlooking real value within their workforce?
Every single organization in the world, the number one asset they have is people. Every single CEO at DAVOS is going to tell you that. They also are going to say that their number one fear is that if they don't have the right people in their organizations, they will not survive the future. We're at a time of unbelievable change, and if we don't have the same predictive capabilities that we do in every other industry inside of talent, these organizations can't make those jumps. They can't make the move into the future without a lot of manual work, a lot of financial commitment.
And how do you do that?
We do that by, over the last 7 years, we've really built one of the largest people data platforms in the world by looking at labor market data, by looking at people data, by looking at company data, and really pulling all of this together to build what is the most sophisticated inference engine around skills. And we come into organizations and we automate the entire collection and analysis of their people data. And we provide them an ability to go from understanding very little about the capabilities within their organization to understanding full capabilities within their organization.
I mean, I would imagine there was a time once when HR would have said, look, the workforce is a bit restless, let's give them all an extra day's holiday a year or something like that, which would be the similar gesture that you're talking about.
The number one lowest score in organizations is that employees don't feel seen. And so despite giving them more holidays or giving them more money or giving them even more responsibility, the biggest thing that employees want is they want to feel seen. And they want to be able to be found and moved into the right opportunities within their organizations in a much faster, fairer, and smarter way than is happening historically.
So a line manager could do loads of homework and work late at night and drink loads of coffee and look into his employees. Presumably what you're doing is speeding up that task and organizing it into a much more coherent kind of shape and form for the CEOs to look at or for the C-suite to look at.
Absolutely. It sounds great what you're saying, where a line manager could sit there and they could review all of the data on their people. The problem is that these companies actually don't have any data on their employees. You know, we just did a whole case study with Verizon, and Verizon's one of the 30th largest company in the world. They had 5% data on their employees. So it doesn't matter what line manager can sit there and they can review and they go, oh my God, I don't know who has process automation capability, who has emerging AI capabilities, who has financial analyst capabilities. They don't know that because inside of their own organizations, that data has never actually been populated. What we do is we're able to go in, provide all of that intelligence and all that information so that line managers, without ever having to spend up late at night reviewing people, they're able to say who in my organization has process optimization and immediately see that. We took Verizon from 5% to 100% coverage on their employees across all the knowledge of their employees and their skills. And we did that in a matter of weeks. And we did it within the system that they already use every day. So there was no adoption or long implementation, which is just a complete game changer. So that line manager doesn't have to learn anything new. All of a sudden, the system he uses every day is now just outfitted with the right intelligence and skills.
So one can see immediately, fine, that seems like a benefit to the organization, it seems like a benefit to the employee themselves, it seems like a benefit to the department that they're in, and all the rest of those boxes kind of get ticked in terms of improving. What else does it do for the company? Does it help its sustainability? Does it help its Productivity, can you quantify those kind of results to someone who comes to you wanting to be a client?
Absolutely. I mean, sustainability, I would say at the heart of sustainability is, how sustainable is your workforce? Who's going to survive this next evolution? The World Economic Forum reported that 83% of companies have to reskill right now. And they have to reskill to be able to survive all the technology changes, all of the workforce changes that are happening in the world. And in order to do that, companies need to know this information. They have to have skills for them to know, how can I not just constantly be recruiting people? How do I instead look at who's inside my company and how do I optimize this? That's one of the biggest, I would say, benefits of any organization. Sustainability, at the heart of it is career development. At the heart of it is internal mobility. At the heart of it is succession planning. It's knowing that you have the right leaders, the right employees underneath them in the right seats, so that the organization can sustain the future and what's happening in the future.
So looking at those things you mentioned, planning, mobility, planning for workforce, how does your platform kind of work from the employee point of view? How does that function? What do we see happening?
One of the most amazing things is that when most companies will say, employee, please put your skills inside of Workday or inside of SAP, inside of our main human capital management system. Go in, type in your skills. Now, if I said, Andrew, what are your skills? You would struggle right now defining yourself to me in skills. Most human beings actually can't define themselves in skills. And so having a system that can actually understand them, allow it to pull out what capabilities they have, allow it to pull out from their background and their experience, all the skills they have, really changes the game. I can't tell you, I mean, we have thousands of employees who have sat there and said, I feel seen, and what that does for an organization. Well, we report our Fortune 500 companies are reporting 60% increase in internal mobility. They're doubling the number of cross-functional movement, which means moving from financial planning over to data analysis and not having to hire someone new over here. It's actually true upskilling and realizing who inside the organization can actually do something even outside of their function.
Shall we just briefly cover the sort of the three arms of what you do? Because it's not just looking at employees, there's the recruitment search and so on. Tell us about the three arms.
Yeah, so we have three arms. Employee intelligence, which provides all of the skills and capability data directly inside of the organization about their own people. We have recruiting intelligence, which does everything around high volume recruiting and being able to, in a much fairer and faster and much more equitable way, predict which employees or which applicants should be looked at for opportunities. It looks at people that maybe applied in the past who weren't the right fit for a role, and it's going to automate all of that so that recruiters spend their time with really the best talent. And then lastly, we do executive intelligence, which is really, if you think about it, director and above, it helps our large customers figure out who across my executives do I hire, who's in succession, how do I think about workforce planning, who inside my leadership is about to leave, how do I protect myself from unwanted churn, how do I protect myself from my competitors, and how do I think about whatever the competitors are doing, how do I get ahead of them, specifically within their talent.
It's a common thing whenever the technology gets so advanced and it can be deployed in such unique ways, in the ways that you do, for example. You as CEO, are you coming from a technical background? Are you coming from an HR background? Are you just like a wise person helping companies sort out their issues? What's your skill set that you bring to it?
Well, I would say my skill set is that I hire people smarter than me and I get out of their way really, really well.
And the emphasis on technological skills within Censia, or is it the emphasis on kind of recruiting skills or HR kind of skills?
Actually, a balance across everyone. That's a great question. I think that for us, when I first started, I have two other co-founders. One that came from a go-to-market side, where how do you build high-growth SaaS-based organizations at scale for the enterprise, which is very different. Our customers have hundreds of thousands of employees rather than a small business, let's say. We also looked at it, my third co-founder he came from building high-frequency trading platforms, so taking mass amounts of data and building intelligence around that data to build smarter and more predictive investment decisions. He was able to do that years and years ago, and now taking that same capabilities and those same technologies and those same that same institutional knowledge directly into HR was really such a game changer for us. So over the last 7 years, we've trained this model to now be one of the most intelligent and probably the largest data platforms out there on people.
What are those conversations like? I mean, can you meet them on all the different levels that they'll be making inquiries to you about?
Partnerships are critical for Censia because we did something that people thought I was crazy when we did this. But when we first started, we realized that one of the biggest hurdles to digital transformation for the enterprise is actually the adoption of new technologies. You probably have met more companies than most people, but every single day, enterprises are faced with yet another technology, yet another solution that can do something that can drive more efficiency. And the problem is these companies cannot adopt, learn, or train their own workforce on these new technologies at anywhere close to the speed necessary. And so we decided from day one to be what's called an API-first platform. We are the talent intelligence inside of Workday. We are the talent intelligence inside of SAP, so that our customers that use those platforms, rather than them trying to say, oh my gosh, now I have to leave Workday and I have to go over here. Instead, we just made Workday smarter and better. And we did it in a way where our customers could just automate everything right from the get-go. So partnerships and the way that we work with other HR technologies is critical. You know, we built this vast talent data platform, and we know that the future of technology is going to be built on top of that platform. So giving companies like Deloitte, giving companies like Workday, giving companies like SAP and Heidrick & Struggles access to that data platform, allow them to build their own technologies on top of this and drive efficiencies within their own organizations and their own businesses. It truly transforms things for them.
So a final thought then, I mean, you know better than most, I'm sure, at the speed at which this kind of technology is developing. And so you must already feel an acceleration in the progress of Censia in the 7 years that you've been operational. What's your big picture for the next decade? What are you looking at? What are you aiming for? What can you see? What transformations can you see already starting to take shape?
HR is, I would say, one of the last remaining industries that is truly not quite, is left still untouched by AI, by supply chain optimization, if you will. I like supply chain optimization because humans are the largest supply chain problem we have. And if you think about it, when we think about where is the future going, where is Censia going, it is about how does every aspect of HR become fairer, faster, better? How do we unlock potential for all humans, not just in what skills can they do for the future in career planning and internal mobility, but what about compensation? What about as you think about competitive intelligence? What about how that informs markets? What about how that informs where you expand product lines? This is really the core data that can kind of answer many untold questions for every CEO and every board and every company out there. So for us, it's around how do we further embed this even deeper into other aspects of HR and where our customers know that they're going to need to answer questions in the future.
Jo, pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
AI is in the workplace, and at its best, it should herald a more inclusive and sustainable future for workforce management. Censia's promise to the future is to allow the retention of top talent, unlock skills-based HR systems, and enable companies in their search for top talent.